Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner operator of Something Wicked Film Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and welcome to our program today. So, if you've been following us over the last couple of years, what you'll realize is that what we do here on our program is we take an individual film and we critique and analyze it and kind of have a general conversation about the movie to get into the nitty gritty of some of these amazing films that are out there. Sometimes there will be popular films, and sometimes there'll be, well, let's just say not so popular films. Uh, I mentioned that because you just happen to be entering our month of franchise films. And as we all know, in a horror franchise, there are some sequels that are not as well liked or mentioned or actually even seen by the general audiences out there. But thankfully, for the film that we're discussing today, this film is very fondly remembered. So, if you did not get from the title of this episode, we are talking about the Cloverfield franchise, and in particularly, we are going to discuss, analyze, and talk about the film 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is the second film in the franchise. And to speak about this film with me, I have my esteemed colleague, Mr. Philip Ray. He's going to give us some insight on what he thought about this movie. Thank you, Philip, for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you back, and especially since we have been talking about everything Cloverfield. So for listeners, if you've been paying attention, you can watch all the individual episodes of each one of the Cloverfield films today. So we hope that you go out there and seek them all out, and not just 10 Cloverfield Lane, since this is the one that is most generally loved by all audiences. So let me get a little bit of information about you and your interpretations, your impressions, and kind of your experience with watching this film, Philip.
So again, Cloverfield, one of my favorite movies. So when I heard that they were doing 10 Cloverfield Lane, which was basically the idea of them doing an anthology with the Cloverfield stuff, I thought that was a very neat idea. We had not fully really seen that idea before. I mean, there's been some attempts with the idea of trying to do an anthology. That's kind of what Halloween was the idea originally, for that to be kind of a anthology for but then they quickly said, nope, we're just going to make this about Michael Myers all the time. So the fact that this idea of, all right, we're going to start doing these anthology kind of movies with the Cloverfield ideal and stuff, I was super excited. So I was not able to originally see 10 Cloverfield Lane when it came out in theaters, so I had to wait until later to get it on streaming and stuff. But I was very happy to be able to get to finally see it, and it definitely met all my expectations. I was expecting when it was first announced.
Uh, so, I being a fan of the Cloverfield franchise too, but probably not nearly as much as Mr. Phillip here. And if you've listened to our other episode of Cloverfield, you'll see just how much of a fan he is of that film. But with this film, I really, 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 really enjoyed it when I saw it at the theater, because it was like the original film. It was not what I was expecting. I thought I was getting into one type of film, and when I watched it at the theater with a big audience, I got a completely different film, which surprised, shocked, and actually made me really enjoy the film. Now, that being said, most of that is derived from not only the writing, but the amazing performances by the three-person cast in this movie, pretty much. There's a fourth person, but really we see her for so little in the film.
Yeah, no, this movie, again, I think everyone hands down can agree this is John Goodman's movie. Like I love Mary Elizabeth Winston. I like John
Gallagher.
Gallagher Jr., but John Goodman really is. I know I've heard people complain that John Goodman should have won like some sort of Oscar that year when this movie came out, and I can agree of like he did such a good job in this movie, and he really does. Like I love John Goodman in pretty much almost everything he's in, and this is definitely one of his best movies of just the amount of how much he carries the movie. It's a fantastic, but that also is not to give any discredit to the other two. Mary Elizabeth Winston just did such a great job
Hmm.
as well. And again, fun fact with this, and it's directed so well. So this is Jan Trachtenberg's first movie, which is funny because for our listeners and stuff, he is currently the one who's been in charge of a lot of the Predator movies recently. He did Prey, he did Predator Killer Killers, and he's doing Predator Badlands as well. So he's also done. He also did a Portal based on the video game short that's well regarded. He's also did the pilot for The Boys. So far, he is definitely a director for me that I'm like, okay, if I see his name attached to something, I'm expecting something good so far because he has definitely been great every time, every movie he's directed. So this being his director debut, knocked it out of the park.
I'm going to agree with that mostly because of when I rewatched it, and I remember. So everyone out there who's listening, I actually have only seen this. I've seen this Cloverfield film the least. Like I literally have only seen this movie twice. I loved it so much the first time. I never bothered to watch it again. Um, I've always thought this was a really strong movie, but I've never bothered to watch it more than once. I literally watched it a second time when I was watching it for the podcast. Unlike Cloverfield, which I've seen like 20 something times, or the Cloverfield Paradox, which if you listen to that episode, you will realize that that is literally a guilty pleasure movie, despite how bad it may actually be. Uh, but with this film, I always thought that it was so strong as an individual film that it was one that stayed with me long after the credits rolled. Like I remembered whole chunks of this film without having to have seen it since whatever year it was originally released in. Um, I don't have that. You
It
know,
was released in 2016.
2016, so almost 10 years later, I'm still remembering what I saw in this film because it was that good. That being said, I think it is a testament to both the director, the writers, and the cast that makes this film so good. Because even though it is an actor's dream for John Goodman to be in this film and he carries a whole chunk of it, I do believe that visually speaking, because of the way that Trachtenberg directed and edited the movie, a lot of the stuff with Mary Elizabeth Winstead is also as strong because of the fact that she says so little and she does so much. Like you see, the thing about this movie is it opens with her character literally leaving her. We're assuming abusive husband. She's leaving her ring behind. She's driving away, sneaking off because they've had a argument. But for the rest of the film, she is using that ingenuity that she has to try and escape at every turn. She's also using it verbally in some of the dialogue when she's speaking to other characters, especially with the Emmett character. She's very subtle in what she's asking and is done in such a great way that it shows that she is a really strong character, just like John Goodman is on the other spectrum. He's a strong character because he's such a I don't want to say doomsday prepper slash conspiracy theorist slash a whole bunch of other things, especially when it starts getting to revealing exactly what he may have used the bunker for, other than being just a doomsday prepper.
Oh
um,
yeah. No, I mean with going talking about again the fact that uh the opening is so strong. It is done no dialogue, just actions, which again, a lot of times when a movie's able to do some stuff without dialogue, a lot of times it hits so well because you have to rely on the visuals. And again, I think Trachtenberg did a great job with that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
with Michelle, she does not speak for the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Mm.
That so it's not until 10 minutes into the movie does she have her first piece of dialogue, which is interesting. Um, Another thing too with that was another fun fact. I didn't even know this until I was doing research with the movie for this episode. Bradley Cooper is actually the voice of Ben, Michelle's girlfriend. I would have never known that. I would have never knew it was Bradley Cooper until I looked it up because it's barely in the movie. He only has a little piece of dialogue, but again, would have never picked that up. Um, One thing they do too, and this was a J.J. Abrams change because he was a producer on this, was originally Ben was going to be more involved in the script. Basically, Michelle was going to be getting texts from him throughout the film, and that was kind of Michelle's reasoning to get out. And basically, J.J. Abrams said, "No, cut all that because we don't want that to be the reason she's getting out. We want her getting out because she wants to get out." And I think that was a very smart choice because again, you just follow her the entire time and you seeing all the gears put on. It is very tense the entire movie and it's done so well because even with John Goodman's character, again, Howard, you he does a good job at the beginning. You're just like with Michelle, you're very much going like, okay, clearly this guy's nuts, but then you start to get pieces to be like, oh, okay, well maybe he is right. Like, she Michelle has the moment where she encounters the woman trying to get in who is obviously uh, dealing with some type of burns and stuff, and you can tell, okay, something is definitely not right out there and stuff. And so you start to then believe in Howard's story and stuff, and then you start to get pieces throughout the movie of, okay, Howard's not exactly as he seems either and stuff. And the entire time, it's a roller coaster ride of just you don't know who to believe anymore. You don't know if Howard's actually good or not because the Emmett character doesn't know either, but he's like, I think he's good. I think he's a good guy and stuff. So because that was very smart to have the Emmett character in the movie. I think having him there helps a lot because he helps adding the uncertainty with Howard. I think if it was just Michelle and Howard, I think the movie would have some pacing issues. But because Emmett's there, Emmett's able to be the middle person who, again, supports Michelle later on when she's like, "Oh yeah, Howard's bad too." But at the beginning, she kind of helps. Emmett helps Michelle going like, "Well, maybe he's not bad after all. Maybe I should trust him and stuff."
Well, the way the film's written and executed. It's a very good tug of war with Michelle, who doesn't always believe what other people are telling her because she has to see it for herself. Versus the Howard character, who he doesn't know what to believe, but he believes something bad has happened. He doesn't say it could be terrorists, it could be Russians, it could be Martians. He doesn't know, he just knows something bad has happened, and he doesn't really actually care to know the exact details of that. Whereas the what's her name? I can't think of her name now. Michelle has to know exactly what's going on, despite the fact that she may not have anyone to go to when she leaves there. She has to know. It's driving her out the entire film until, of course, I think it's the woman's name who comes to the bomb shelter. I think it's Bridget. And she won't let her into the bunker.
Leslie.
Leslie. I couldn't remember which one
Yeah.
it was. Leslie. She since Leslie. I mean, since Michelle won't let Leslie into the bunker, she has a little tirade. And that then tells Michelle that maybe it is closer to something that's out there because she can't explain the burns and stuff on Leslie. So then we have this nice little moment, this collage cutaways of them actually being like a unit for a little while. This little reprieve, and it's not that long either. It's a short-lived reprieve before I think that what happens after that is the air filtration goes down and
Yes.
yeah, so the air filtration goes down and they send her in there because she's the smallest one to fix it or restart the system. And of course she realizes that there is a help uh, uh, warning on the inside of the window that leads out to the real world, and the real world in her eyes looks clear and crisp and nothing wrong with it. But seeing that help warning on the inside and finding an earring leads her to a new mystery and maybe a lot more distrust of the Howard character. Because a lot of times during this movie, we don't think that there's anything wrong with Howard other than the fact that he might be an extreme doomsday prepper. Like a lot of us have seen these people, we've heard about these people, we may not know what these people are like, other than the fact that they're prepared for a doomsday event of some kind, and we think of them as being extremists.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, the montage definitely helps a lot with the pacing of it because it gets you again, it's the calm before the storm.
mhm.
It helps again, it tricks the audience thinking, okay, everything's good now. We're all good. We're all set. And so then again, when we had the infiltrations thing, again, it starts out positive. You've seen everyone, Michelle and Howard and Emmett work together and stuff. And so again, you're just like, oh, this is great. But you're also like, okay, where is this going to like, when are we going to flip back? And then you have the moment with the help stuff, which again, like what I really like about this movie, and again, same thing Cloverfield does is it never it never just flat out tells you everything. It's
Mhm.
giving you bits and pieces as you as the audience trying to you going along with these characters, along with Michelle and Emmett, trying to figure out what is going on. And again, not everything's stated by the end. There's some things that you're like, okay, this is probably why. Because, one thing, one of my favorite scenes about in this movie was the guessing game when they're like guess
Uh-huh.
what the word is, and when Emmett's like talking about using Michelle as the example, and Howard's like woman, and then says pretty princess and like little girl, you start to realize in your head, oh, this because again, Michelle from the get-go causes all these issues. You go to a point where you're like, why is Howard dealing with this? And when you have that moment and when he reveals how is visually seeing Michelle, it all clicks in your head of like later of, oh, this is why he did it. This is what he is seeing her as and why he puts up with it in the end and stuff.
Well, yeah, he puts up with Emmett because Emmett fought his way to get in there, and Howard just kind of lets him in. But you also realize that Howard, that without Emmett there, Howard probably would have started doing his molestation or whatever he has planned to Michelle a lot earlier.
Yep. And
Uh,
then again, that's also good of like again, the movie doesn't say anything. We
no.
never know what Howard's plan was for Michelle. We don't know if he was going to end up molesting her. We don't know if he was just again just going to basically kind of doll her, just like treat
Uh-huh.
her like the daughter he has lost and stuff. You never know what exactly was Howard's plan in the end. And again, that's I always like when movies again, a lot of times good movies know you don't need to state everything out because it's we don't always need to know the answers. It's better to not know because then it leaves you speculating. And a lot of times that's better than being flat out told, oh yeah, Howard is a molester and he molests girls all the time and this, that, and the other. It's good to not know what was Howard's plan in the end.
Yeah, yeah. Because he could have done nothing to the previous girl that he had there, except for keep her locked up, and she could still be alive somewhere. Or who the hell knows? Because we never see any traces of anything that he's done to anyone other than that sign that says help.
Yeah.
That is literally the only thing we see in an earring. Um, that's all we see. Which makes for a good well-rounded character until, of course, he decides to kill Emmett and put him in a vat of acid.
Yep. Once it gets the acid and stuff, when you get to the final, like the third act and stuff, which again, I think, again, is done very well. Again, the entire time, again, the movie does such a great job of the whole just movie being so tense and keeping you there in the bunker the entire time. It's just really smart, which apparently, and this makes sense, this movie was shot chronologically, which for our viewers who are not, or listeners who are not into films and stuff or don't know about behind the scenes, most of the time films are not shot in order as we see them. They're always shot they're always kind of shot all over the place. They're shot all over the place in the story, but in this movie they shot it chronologically and stuff because they wanted to make sure the tone was consistent the entire time and stuff. And
Mm.
some scenes were shot multiple times uh, with different emotions and stuff so they could find the right emotion for each scene. And I think that is helps a lot with this movie with that of like it's I think it helps a lot with the flow of the emotion, the tenseness of it because of that.
Yeah, no, I'll agree. I'll agree with you on that one. Um, that's what makes this film so different and so much better than say Cloverfield. Cloverfield is this movie that's always moving. It's always on the go. You shaky cam keeps the momentum going, and this film is in a bunker in which you're literally stuck with the three people for the entire film, and it's like a powder keg of tense moments from the beginning to the very end. And like I said, it's all due to the way it's written and like the performances because they all three of the actors do an amazing job of playing the nuances of the dialogue and their characters and playing that subtlety of all the stuff that's hidden beneath the surface. The game that you were talking about, whether the guessing game, is just one of the many sequences where this happens. Um, and it's just a very tense movie and it keeps you on the edge from beginning to end when it could be one of those really bad movies with only three actors where you're bored 15 minutes in and you just stay bored the whole movie.
Yeah, no, I think you are never bored
No.
because you are always your entire time you're going along with everyone else of like what is going on here and stuff. Again, I think that was done very well. There's a lot of claustrophobia with the movie with
Claustrophobia,
this.
yes.
And again, I think that's why the movie and again, and let's be real, it's because the cast is also just strong. Like
Yeah.
again, John, if with another actor in the role of Howard, the movie may not be as strong as it is with with John Goodman. Because again, like John Goodman, even his body type, he is again John Goodman's done so many different roles, but a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times he's that dad. He is that dad role and stuff a lot of the time. And so you get that feeling with him in this movie where you can see him as again, like they do a lot of hints about what's going on with him, subtle things like there are times where he has nervous tics and he mentions that he
Yeah.
was in the army and I saw comments of people saying that like his actions were very like legitimate like he took notes from actual military like uh veterans who had those kind of nervous tics after so you start to pick up those that's like oh maybe he's not actually bad he just has a lot of PTSD in his head
Mm-hmm.
and that's why he's acting so out or he's just again he's a type of person that flies off the uh this flies off a lot with situations. You don't know when he's going to blow up and stuff. And so, and it's a lot of times, and it's not done as like oh, he's a serial killer and stuff. It's more of like, again, like anyone who's had a parent who, has been mad at them and stuff. And, you're sitting next to them and you're waiting, okay, what's going to set them off and stuff. That's how it is a lot of the movie with that.
Well, you bring up something that's very interesting because John Goodman's Howard is a veteran and he has the nervous tics. And we all know he's a doomsday prepper, but he literally says he does not have the answers to everything that's going on. You, as the audience, want to believe him when he says that because he's being completely genuine. There is no point where he said where you believe that he's not being genuine. He even comes at that point where he tells Michelle that he's the one who ran her off the road, and the reason why it was an accident because he was in such a hurry, and then he felt guilty and he saved her and brought her to the bunker. That's what you assume, of course. You don't assume that he's going after her because he reminds her of she reminds him of his daughter or his last victim, or he's out there chasing after a victim. For this, the way the movie is presented, you actually believe that John Goodman's Howard saw the same flash of red light in the distance as Emmett did, and immediately went to, I gotta get to my fucking bunker. And
Yeah.
he wasn't thinking of anything else, and his collision with Michelle is just happenstance.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing is that, and again, I think casting John Goodman also was a good idea because of, again, everyone sees John Good, like John Goodman has played bad guys in movies, but a lot of times the general audience still looks at John Goodman as this nice fatherly fella. Again, you think of him as Sully from Monsters Inc. You think of him as freaking you see him as Pacha from Emperor's New Groove. You want him to be good. You want to not believe that he's crazy, especially when he starts making good points where you're like, okay, again, you don't want him to be revealed to be the bad guy and stuff, so that when it is revealed he's the bad guy, he is as potentially as bad as you feared he was. It sucks you down as an audience member and stuff.
Well, it's kind of funny because all the stuff that he's telling Michelle to convince her to stay down there, some of that comes to fruition when we find the big reveal at the last act of the film. So, and the fact that he genuinely believes all of that kind of makes you feel that, in my opinion, it kind of makes you feel that whatever bad he's done, like he has pictures of the girl that he in theory is not his daughter, but you don't see like it almost seems like a father-daughter type pictures and not like a molestation, but you have to believe there's something nefarious going on because of the cryptic message that was left behind. And surprisingly, he's never ever bothered to clean it, so it's still there. But it does seem like that's a room that he never went in that often.
Well, no, because I think it's because he physically could not get into that room. Hence why Michelle is the one who ends up going there, not him.
Well, I couldn't tell really because the hatch he tries to get into that won't budge. I always kind of thought that there was something in the way of that prevented him from getting in there, and so they just used the other way to go around it. But who knows? That's one of those things that it could have been blocked from when the girl was in there. Who the fuck knows? We don't get those details because there's a lot of details that we don't get,
Yeah.
even even after the Michelle character finally escapes the bunker. There's lots of stuff that's revealed that we don't get. You know.
Yes. So I want to touch on upon because I'm curious if we're going to have different opinions on this.
Okay.
The third act, the reveal. So again, the big reveal of, okay, Howard was technically correct. There is something going on here. What is your thoughts on the design for the aliens?
So this one always came off as aliens to me. Those type of whatchamacallit. This didn't have any type of HP Lovecraft feeling or anything like crazy aliens to me like the first film did. I took this as more of a when I watched this after the big reveal, I saw this as an alien invasion sci-fi movie. That's essentially how I saw this, which is not how I saw the original Cloverfield. I thought it was cool to have a ship that was more or less alive, but it's not the first time I've seen a ship like that alive. And of course, we would get a much, in my opinion, we would get a much better design when Jordan Peele did his Nope. That by far is a much better design in my opinion. This one, I like the design of the spacecraft monster alien. I didn't like the one that was on the ground. That one did nothing for me at all. It's not the same feeling I got like watching the parasites from the very first Cloverfield. These little creatures that I'm just gonna call them parasites as well because we don't know much about the fuckers. Uh, I don't I they just never did anything for me. The spaceship alien looked kind of cool. It was different. It definitely different at the time the movie came out. It was a good reveal for the ending, but I always felt a little bit questionable because the aliens did not in any way, shape, or form remind me of the Clover monster from the first film.
Yeah. Okay, so we're actually on the same page. I fully agree with your opinion. I also do think the alien I'm completely I do know there's some viewers who when they watched this movie were not happy with the alien reveal that there actually were aliens and stuff. I was fine with that because it's like, well, again, it's we're trying again the idea with the Cloverfield stuff is that there's some type of monster or sci-fi and stuff, so I was okay with that. I do know there are some people that that were like that loved the movie up until that point when they saw the creatures and they're like, "Oh, there's actually creatures in this. I don't like this movie anymore." Uh, to me, I think that's a little silly, but I will agree. I was very underwhelmed with the aliens designs. They're okay, but they very much they weren't like when we talk about Cloverfield, that monster's unique. Like I can remember that design, and you can throw a bunch of different other creatures out there, and none of them looks like the Cloverfield monster. You look at the aliens from 10 Cloverfield Lane, they look like other aliens I've seen before. They're not very unique looking. Again, talking about the living spaceship, I immediately thought of the War of the Worlds alien,
Yes.
like the whole them having the living creatures and stuff. Like the scene plays out almost similar to a point where you have a character basically throwing. I think they throw a Molotov they throw a cocktail into the War of the Worlds ship to get out of that one too. So it's like so it did feel slightly less inspired in that sense. So I was a little underwhelmed with the creature designs and stuff. So I do think that is the weakest part of this movie.
Hmm.
Not to say, but again, I still really like the movie, but I do wish that they maybe had done a different design for the aliens, since that was your big punch moment at the end,
Yeah.
and it did make it slightly lackluster because of that.
Yeah, well, the problem is that to be honest with you, I wish they had just used the parasite monsters from the Cloverfield in this one, for those parasite-like creatures, that first attack Michelle at the car. That would have been a better visual link between the movies, and you wouldn't have to redesign a creature we'd already seen it in shadow, but seen it in the first movie. And then you would have been fine with the spaceship one. But to have two completely different aliens that you hadn't seen before, first thing I was wondering is how does one relate to the other? We knew how the parasites and the clover monster related to each other. They're parasites that fell off the fucking clover monster. This one, you just have two separate alien creatures, and you don't know the reason behind them or their relationship to one another. You know, uh,
I view the alien creature on the ground being something that like rode that like was inside the spaceship that rode it and stuff. I'm okay with them having a different design from Cloverfield because I'm not sure if you know the backstory of this movie, but originally this movie it was called The Cellar. It was completely different. And then when Paramount basically like adopted it, uh, the idea was it was going to be its own movie. It was not going to be connected to Cloverfield. It wasn't until J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot got involved in this movie did they start when they read the script went, oh, this could be like this this sounds a lot like Cloverfield to a point. Let's try to have it connect. And also, I think they did it too to help the marketing for the movie because, again, a lot of the crew did not even know that this was going to be the name of the movie for most of it. They didn't know it was going to be called 10 Cloverfield Lane. They didn't know it was going to be connected to Cloverfield at all. It wasn't until uh, that was a J.J. Abrams decision to connect it, probably help the marketing. Kind of like with Paradox, is the same deal. It was its own script called God Particle, and then they went, let's try to combine it with the Cloverfield name to help market it a little bit better. And the same thing happened with this movie. So I'm not sure how far in the process did that when that change happened. I know there was a couple of reshots and like there was a couple of Cloverfield references added, mostly like Slusho, which is a big thing in the first movie. Those that was added in this movie. I'm not sure creature wise if they had already done the CGI for the creature before that had happened or not. Uh, but that might have been why they didn't try to connect them too much with it. Um, I'm I'm okay with it. That's one thing I do appreciate about this movie was, again, it tried not too hard to connect the two, so much. So again, you were expecting again. I think a lot of people were expecting, oh, when's the Cloverfield monster going to pop up? When's it going to pop up? And it doesn't, and I'm okay with that. Again, like I talked about my opinions with Cloverfield Paradox, I'm good with the anthology mentality of it, of like, you see the Cloverfield title, and it doesn't mean, oh, here comes the monster, here comes the parasites. This is this is a world where we deal with these creatures, either in a sci-fi or a horror monster type feel.
Yeah. I will say that this is a more optimistic film, and
Yes.
I and because the way it ends, but the way it ends, I think is the best way for Michelle, the character Michelle, because she's fought so hard to be away from these controlling men, her husband, and then of course Howard, and when she's in the car driving away, she hears over the radio that there are still other survivors and that help is needed in Houston. Now, she could have gone the other way, but after her experiences and what happens to Emmett and all that type of stuff, because she found a kindred spirit and help a companion in terms of a friend in him. Seeing a world that may be devastated by aliens, she decides to go to Houston to help out. That gives it a little bit more optimism because she fought a hard battle first with Howard, first with her husband that we don't see off screen before the movie starts, and then she fights a hard battle with Howard, and then she fights a battle with her first two aliens that she encounters, and through all that, she's become even stronger and she's more prepared and she's ready to take the fight to them being the aliens who are trying to take over the world, so to speak, since you mentioned War of the Worlds. And that makes this for a much different film than you would expect because she becomes a really strong character by the end. And you know that when she goes to Houston, she has a plan to not only be with other survivors like herself, survivors, the survivor after abuse, abuse from her husband, survivor after abuse from Howard, and now aliens. She has this new strength in her character, and you know that she's going to be in a better place when she gets to Houston and she meets other survivors. I think that that's a great ending to get to. Some people may not like the alien, because the alien sequences take up what 15-20 minutes at the end of the movie after she escapes the bunker. It becomes a different story, but we still learn about what's happening in the world. And I was fine with that when I first saw it, and I'm still fine with it now. I don't think that's a weak part of the film. It's just a different part in the film. Um, but I do understand why people are like you and saying that was the weakest part of the film. They hated the ending, blah 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 blah. Um, you know, I think they needed to have that. I think for a Cloverfield film, you needed to have that oomph at the end, kind of like the first Cloverfield when you finally see the monster from a bird's eye view, and HUD and them are in the helicopter. You see the monster, and it comes to tear their helicopter out of the sky. That's an amazing sequence, and I think you needed something like that in this film as well. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think if the design of the monster, of the aliens was a little better, I think I would probably like the sequence more. But I understand it. I still like it for what it's doing, the
Mhm.
purpose of it. I'm okay with the reveal that there actually was an alien and stuff because again, it helps. Because again, it's like if there was no alien, if it was if the reveal at the end was okay, it was this Howard's like Howard was crazy, there was no aliens, it was nothing. I think there would have been no reason to put the Cloverfield title then.
No.
There needed to be something related to a creature to warrant the Cloverfield title. So I'm good with that. And again, and Michelle going to Houston to join the balance stuff, even though it gave me a little War of the Worlds vibe with that too. Again, I think for the purpose of the overall story of Michelle's story, it makes sense. It makes complete sense. I think that was done very well. Because again, I mean, I can't think of any other way you would end the story of her. Like if she just ignores the call and just goes off on her own, I don't think that does anything versus this where it's like, no, she has become a fighter throughout
Mhm.
again, this whole movie is about her story which again I think is done very well. Because at the beginning it's about her running away from instead of talking
Basically,
to
yeah.
her fiance and stuff. She just runs away, and she talks about that. She just runs away from everything. So the fact her character arc at the end is no, she finally confronts, no, I'm not going to run away. I'm going to do my part. I think is done very well.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, that's one of the things I really liked about this film is kind of saw when I originally saw the film and when I rewatched it, I actually saw a little bit more in this theme about a person who's not just abused by their significant other, but also abused by the system that she gets trapped in there with Howard and Emmett, and of course her coming to her own to defeat an even greater menace, which is a worldwide menace in the form of these aliens. I always saw this as a very strong and empowering type of film, which is why when we originally talked about this before doing the show, I always said that this one for me was the better film in terms of the execution wise. But I always enjoyed the fun of the Cloverfield, the original one, because I love found footage films, and this is why I tell you I've seen that one like 20 plus times. I have no problems watching that one. That one I just throw in and I always watch it whenever it's on TV or whenever it's on and I could see it. I'll just watch it there.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I agree, and I think it's because, but I will say it's because it's hard to compare the two to a point, even though they both have Cloverfield in the title,
Hmm.
because they're two different movies.
They're two different movies.
They're two different movies, so it's unfair to compare the two to a point because they are two different types of movies, and they both, I think, do each one fully, they execute it fully well and stuff. And again, like the titling of the reason it's called in Cloverfield Lane, I thought was such a great reveal at the end when it's like when she's driving away and you see the name of the
Yeah,
street is Cloverfield and stuff. Which apparently that was a producer comment. Dan Trachtenberg said that uh, the one of the producers made the joke about like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if that was the name of the street? And the director was like, but wait a minute, that actually works. And so, and I agree. I think that's a good like because the entire time watching it, you're like, okay, where's the Cloverfield part like come in? And then seeing the title because in the Cloverfield, the first movie, that Cloverfield ends up being well, Clover's the
projects.
name of the monster, but ends up being the kind of the military mission to take out the monster is called Cloverfield. And so in this movie, that being the name of the street is still a nice little like wink, wink, nod, nod that I think is done. I think that's a great like payoff.
Yeah. And we discussed that the way the Cloverfield name is utilized in the Cloverfield paradox as well, which is a little bit more overt than these two films.
Yeah, it was not as subtle as these two.
No, 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 and that's and and for everyone out there who is listening to all of these podcasts, whether you're listening to them in order or out of order, there's a lot of different there's very little subtlety in the third film, the Cloverfield Paradox, as opposed to this film especially, but also the original Cloverfield, which is one of the reasons why these two films were better executed than the Cloverfield Paradox, which I'm sure was due to the fact that they wanted to answer all the questions. And me and Philip has repeatedly said that you don't need to answer all the questions. We don't need answers. Being subtle and leaving it up to our imaginations has worked out brilliantly for these first two movies. They didn't really need to answer every question in the third movie, but it is what it is. We have three of them.
Yep. So who knows if we'll ever get a fourth one. But yeah. But yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, I'll get to my closing thoughts.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, again, this movie is done. Again, it's very interesting the fact of the evolution of this movie. Again, not being related to Cloverfield at all. J.J. Abrams coming in and goes, okay, we're going to try to like. There's enough elements in here I like. Let's try to connect it a little bit. And I think again with just strong directing, strong acting from your leads and stuff, I think is what again carries this movie so much. If you are first time watching this movie and stuff, definitely again, do not try to expect like I think the people who were disappointed in this movie were people who were like, "Where's the Cloverfield monster? I thought there'd be a Cloverfield monster." There's not. There is again, this movie is, as J.J. Abrams calls it, it is a spiritual successor. It is a spiritual like sibling to the first movie. It is not a sequel in any sense of form. It is truly its own movie, uh, and stuff. So don't try to connect the two, uh, and you will enjoy this movie so much.
Well, yeah, and I think the experiment with this franchise is a very unique experience, like we've discussed. They tried to do it with John Carpenter would have loved to have done the same type of anthology sequels with Halloween, but it just didn't pan out for that franchise. But for this franchise itself, that was the mentality going into it, and kind of like I really like that. I wish that they would were able to keep going on. I think there are plenty of other avenues to explore in either the world of the original one or this film, where you could go off in many different tangents and create even more compelling stories. It'd be really cool to actually see some of those. I mean, we got the Cloverfield paradox, which tries to tie up all the loose ends for these two films that we didn't need to know the loose ends were getting tied. Uh, um, but I would still like to see more. Something else,
Yeah,
something on the par of this film itself, just differently, you know?
yeah, it's just one of those things of like it's we talked about this with the Halloween. It's kind of disappointing we don't, and I get it's probably because it's too risky, and it's the reason why we definitely will not see it nowadays and stuff. This stuff with Cloverfield was probably the last time we'll ever see something like this attempted. But the idea of having a type of film anthology, I
Mhm.
think it's such a fun idea. And it's like this and John Carpenter and Halloween's attempt to do it again, and they barely gave it enough time before they said, this is not really working. Let's pull the plug. But I would love to see some film, one of the companies try to do an anthology film series and stuff. Not anthology film, but a film series,
Yeah,
and actually like give it a chance. Like give it more than two or three movies before you go, no, that doesn't work, pull the plug.
yeah,
Because I think it's such a neat idea, and if the general audience can get on board with it, it's something that again you get excited about. It can get you excited about stuff. Because again, I think stuff like The Cellar, and God Particle would have never been released
yeah.
potentially if it wasn't for the fact that they threw the Cloverfield title on it.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
We discussed that.
yeah, and again, and I think if in and I think if you had this mentality of an anthology kind of stamp, you could slap on some, and it could save some very interesting movies that maybe would never have seen, maybe never see the light of day. But it's like, oh, it's part of this anthology, so it's allowed to get more of a general audience interested in.
Yeah. Yeah, and as we've been talking, the only other franchise I could think of that tried to do something like this was also the Tales from the Crypt movies, where each one of the three movies in that series were completely different. Um, and they were all their own self-contained little stories between Demon Knight, Bordello and Blood, and Rituals. And I don't think that one naturally fit into this type of anthology film series because it was originally an anthology series to begin with. Um, but I like you, I would love to see the possibilities of something like this are endless. Like endless, yeah. And I'm like you, and I wish someone else would attempt it somehow. I have no idea how, but somehow. So if you're listening to this, filmmakers, and you want to try something new, try and make an anthology film series where each film doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the other ones, and just link them with, one word like Cloverfield. So, all right. Any other thoughts on 10 Cloverfield Lane from you, Philip?
Nope.
All right. So I want to thank you, Philip, for joining us on this conversation in which we discussed 10 Cloverfield Lane. For everyone listening out there, what we like to do is we like to kind of rate the films on our scale from 1 to 5, 1 being very poor and 5 being amazingly excellent. Where on the spectrum, Philip, do you put 10 Cloverfield Lane?
10 Cloverfield Lane is probably 4.5 for me.
4.5. See, now, so if you listen to our previous episode of Cloverfield, we were kind of different. He was a 5 and I was a 4.5. For me, I'm going to be a 5 on this one because I actually like the ending and I like the way that the themes regarding Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character flows through the whole film. I also really fucking love John Goodman. I thought he was cheated out of a fucking an award for this film. And like I said, I hadn't seen the movie in 10 years yet. Most of this movie still retained with me because I thought it was that good. So I'm gonna give it a 5. I think this is a really excellent film, despite the fact that people don't like the alien monsters at the end. I was perfectly fine with them, to be honest with you. I think the parasite. I would have liked the parasite dog-like alien to have been the parasite for the first one, but that's just a personal preference. I understand that they wanted an alien-like creature, like the spaceship thing. So I'm gonna forgive them for that. That's just a personal preference for me. But that's what I loved about this movie. I think this movie, out of all of the films in the franchise, is the most accessible for general audiences. Like we've discussed, the original Cloverfield, people who don't like shaky cam, don't like found footage, simply just won't see the film. That's unfortunate. I do believe that whether or not you don't like that aesthetic, there are some great movies out there that uses that aesthetic to tell a different type of story. And I think Cloverfield is one of the best examples of that. So I hope that you will go out there and check that out. For you, all of you out there who have never seen 10 Cloverfield Lane, why the fuck not? Like, dude, there is no reason why not to watch this movie. Just John Candy alone is fucking brilliant, but the whole movie is top notch. It just gets, unfortunately, pigeonholed as a horror film, and so there are those audience members out there who just won't see it. It's a shame. It is a really big shame that I believe a lot of people are just missing out on a great movie. So, with that, I hope that you all will go out there and check out the other episodes that we've done for the other movies in the Cloverfield franchise. I hope that you will go out and seek out all previous episodes of the podcast, including all of the other franchise films that we have done in this month, which includes Maniac Cop franchise, Final Destination franchise, and I forget the other one offhand. Oh, Poltergeist. That's our other big one. Poltergeist franchise. Please check those out. I know it's a very different, eclectic mix of franchises, but they all have something to give to us as the watchers and listeners. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to check out the show in your favorite podcast app, Spotify or YouTube, which means make sure to like, follow, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Regular episodes are every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Our specially themed episodes usually come out on Mondays at 8 a.m. Also, check out our sister podcast, Conversations in 4Color, which delves deep into comic books, manga, and graphic novels. That is our Patreon exclusive podcast. So you have to be a subscriber or a follower. So please do that so you never miss one of those episodes as well. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, have a pleasant day. And don't forget, leave us some comments. What did you think about the movies? What did you think about our podcast? And what other movies you would like us to discuss? Because we are here for you and we will discuss any movie you put in our comments page. Thank you so much for joining us and have a great day. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.